everyone. It's Joe Waxman, and I am here with Bettina Zumdick, macrobiotic teacher and counselor. She has recently taught at the summer conference. In the past, she taught at the Kushi Institute. And yeah, Bettina, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks, Joe, for inviting me. And it is a pleasure to be here. So, yeah, I'm doing well. I just finished with the summer conference that, we had planned for and put on just this past week. And a lot of people were on, a lot of people were enjoying it. And the recordings will be available soon for any other people to enjoy it in case you have missed it. But of course, we'll also plan again the winter conference, which is the next conference that's coming up.
Oh, great. Something to look forward to. So, Bettina, same as always. What's your macrobiotic story? Where did it all begin for you?
All right, so I'm originally from Germany, as you can probably tell by my accent. And I started macrobiotics in Germany. I started because, well, I was always interested in expansion of consciousness, if you wish, in more of the spiritual aspects of it, of macrobiotics. And so because of the I read the books by Seth or channeled by Jane Roberts, and that was a fascinating story for me. And so, I was really interested in growth of consciousness, and then I happened to come upon macrobiotics, which in where Michio was talking about also growth of consciousness. And the first seminar with Michio that I attended in Hamburg was a spiritual seminar. And, so he talked about all kinds of interesting things, which were fascinating to me. And that was my introduction to macrobiotics. And then at some point, I took the levels, the Kushi levels at that time in Germany, and Edward Esco was teaching there as well as Michio and Aveline. So I studied with Michio and Aveline in Germany as well. And but Ed invited me to come to the Kushi Institute, and so I did. And initially, I was only planning to stay for about 6 months. I think I had a 6 months visa, and that turned into, well, now over 30 years. And so, yeah, I became eventually a senior teacher and counselor at the Kushi Institute and have taught there for many, many years until it closed. And, I have my own practice. Now we are doing the conferences still as a continuation of the programs from the Kushi Institute. And of course, I counsel privately and do other teachings here and there.
Yeah, cool. Well, short and sweet. And just a side note, just a funny side note. I don't know if you know this, but I remember when you came here with your siblings. Is that correct? Your two sisters? You have two sisters?
They came for the summer conference. I was already here, but they
Oh, okay.
visited that year. Yes.
I remember that because I was there at the summer conference, and I remember your sister Maya fondly. So.
That's great. I will certainly tell her.
So it's interesting that you mentioned the spirituality because not many people come in on that channel. But I personally love that aspect of macrobiotics and just in general, consciousness, spirituality, expansion of consciousness. Now, how has that played out in your macrobiotic practice or your teaching? Can you talk about that?
Well, for me, what I understand is when we eat, for example, more animal food, and I'm not even talking about macrobiotics, but even talking a difference between eating animal food and not eating animal food, and of course eating junk food as well. But when we're eating more animal food, my experience is that the veils to these other realms, to our availability to feel the vibrations to what else is out there, becomes a little bit denser, and the veils become thicker, and we don't have as good as what a sense of what else is going on. And so in my opinion, eating more of a macrobiotic diet, which is basically plant-based, but also, you know, in general, much more harmonizing, I feel that I can be more open, more available to, for myself, sense what else may be going on, and have access to information that, you know, otherwise might not be coming through. I mean, for me, one of the primary channels, of course, has always been dreams, even though Michio said, well, dreams is no good. But even for counseling, like before somebody would come to a consultation session, I, the night before, oftentimes I would have a dream, you know, for example, suddenly I play the piano, but I'm not a great piano player. So, but suddenly I'm playing, you know, these great sonatas, etc., on the piano, and you know, I'm a man in that dream, and I even say my name, and then I'm saying I'm a lawyer, and I'm thinking even in my dream, okay, where is this coming from? I'm no lawyer. You know, this all is very strange. Anyway, so then, you know, the next day I'm having a consultation with a man, and of course, what comes out is that well, he is a lawyer, and he was very ill. But what I realized from the dream, he used to, because of his lawyer practice, he had made everything else, you know, life was just busy trying to get everything, get the money in, get the clients in, was all about go, 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 and survival and all of that. But it was not about the part that he had let go of, was his creative part. And of course it came out that he used to play the piano, and in fact he had at some point even considered becoming a pianist instead of or pianist, whatever, however you say that, instead of becoming a lawyer. But so I told him that, you know, obviously one of his important things in life was to go back to music and feel the frequencies of music, to build his body, to you know, create more joy for himself. And of course the diet was important too, but you know, those kind of things are what are happening to me, or this is what I feel macrobiotics can make a difference in. Or suddenly, you know, you're sitting in a consultation and you get a funny thought, and you just say what is coming in. And you know, like another person, I told her, and I, you know, sometimes I just don't know where things are coming from, but they are then there. And while I told her I see her in front of a house with a lot of flowers, and she, you know, and she was like, well, I'm not there. And I said, well, I'm sorry, but this is what I'm seeing. And, you know, about 6 months later, she said very unexpectedly, she moved, and she told me that she was in a house with a lot of flowers in front of her house, and that you know, those kind of things. I think that we can access information more easily. And of course, macrobiotics also can help to what align our bodies, make our bodies stronger, make our bodies more healthy. Depending on what you need, you can adjust your dietary practice a little bit in one way or a little bit in another way to work best to help you for the endeavors that you wish to pursue. And this is what I find really useful about macrobiotics. Certainly, it's not one size fit all, because it never does. One size does not fit all. We're all individuals and we all have to make adjustments. However, eating in general more plant-based and more grains, beans, lots of veggies, this kind of a dynamic as a basis can really make it easier for our body, and for the most part also not, if we're eating more foods that are more whole, less processed, etc., then obviously we're not putting as many toxins in our system that the body then has to deal with. Now, our bodies are really actually quite high technology that most of us do not really realize, including me for the most part. I don't know how to access it, all the information that my cells are always receiving, and unfortunately there is a gap between what my cells are receiving information, because they say our cells are really like the greatest computer there is. I mean, they are receiving information just like a TV station or so. I mean, they are like a great computer. It's just that we are not able to access that information anymore. But the more clean we eat, the more cleanly there is good quality foods going also into the cells, not so many toxins, then there is a more clear, a more easy access to that information, and it's not as much is lost. And so right now, I think in this time in the world also where there is a great shift, and there are more and more younger children, young adults, primarily, some older people also, of course, but that are already coming in with a lot more access to the non-physical realms.
Yeah.
But when we're eating, if somebody who's coming in with that knowledge, but then eating really poorly or taking a lot of drugs or something, that can derail that that availability of the body to some degree, or numb it, or not make it, they cannot go to their potential. Whereas really we need to find a way to build our own potential within ourselves, and of course help everybody else to do the same, so that, and with harm to none. I mean, not I need to access my whole potential, but I'm not paying attention to anybody else. I'm running over everybody else because it's me. It's not like that, but it's still, I believe that we need to work to, cultivate ourselves, if you wish.
Yeah, that's really some good stuff there. You brought up an interesting point about animal food and meat, and I just want to briefly touch on my understanding of that because it's been a topic that has come up. And so in my view, if somebody eats meat, it's not going to make them not spiritual or less spiritual, but meat is a very horizontal kind of food, and it grows the body, and you become bigger physically, and people who eat meat tend to become more materially oriented. but plants have a vertical orientation. The root goes down and the leaves go up. So you become vertical with when you eat more plant-based, and um, it fosters more spiritual growth. So in essence, my understanding is if somebody's eating meat, they're not going to be growing spiritually. They're going to be growing materially. It's good for making a business, for being more active on the material plane. Anyway, I don't want to speak too much about it, but it just inspired that from
No,
me.
but I think you're absolutely right on that. And I don't mean to make this a better than or less than. It certainly is not a better than or less than. And sometimes, there are times when eating more meat may be appropriate. Also, when you're doing more physical labor, etc.,
Mm-hmm.
where the plant food may not be enough sustenance.
Mm-hmm.
However, sometimes as I said, I find it a little bit making people a little bit more dense and
Mm-hmm.
not sensing the other. What, and in my opinion, there's more than 3D. But
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but again, I mean, it's not meant as a better than or less than, for sure, because we're all equally divine beings manifested in physical bodies. And even eating plant food, I mean, it's also not, oh, we're killing animals and that's why we're not spiritual. Well, we're killing plants too.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, there, in that sense, that is,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
it's,
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
no, that's fine, go ahead.
Yeah, it's not the moral issue. But anyway, what what's exciting for you these days? Currently, right? And what's coming up for you? What's interesting for you?
Well, right now, I have to tell you what I find very fascinating. There's two younger people that I find very fascinating. One of them is a German young woman. I think she's 21 now. Christina von Dreien. Well, she is one of those people that really has a great understanding of all that is going on in the world.
Mm.
And another one, he is a little bit older. He's originally from Argentina, Matias de Stefano. Um, he is doing a project right now in reactivating the, what shall I say, the matrix, or so that we reestablish our connection with each other again, because we have all been so individualized. I mean, of course, it was necessary to become individualized in our growth of consciousness as humanity, but it is time to reconnect and, to realize that we're also connected with the planet and with
Mm-hmm.
everything else out there. And but he is one of those. I also have memories, and now people may judge me as a really weirdo. I have memories from Atlantis and, many other lifetimes. And so, but he has full memories of everything, and
Ah.
remembering the technology that was available in Atlantis when they had built the pyramids.
Mm.
And, or I mean, in the later stages of Atlantis in Egypt. And so he is there right now, activating or using the technology, what's left of it, of the pyramids. And every day he's doing meditations to help people to connect the planetary matrix. So that's what's exciting for me. It's yeah.
No, that sounds absolutely fascinating to me as well. Very what's the word? Progressive in the truest sense. Like that's where we're headed as a humanity. We're headed towards true, like spiritual technology. Like higher understanding. Um, these things are all up and coming, and I know a lot of there are like young souls, they're young in their physical form, but they're very evolved souls. They're being born on this planet right now to help transition into the coming age, I believe. So yeah, I'm totally in line with all that, and I think it's totally fascinating. Um,
Yeah, so what was it? 2 years ago, I for the first time, that was at the live summer conference. I spoke about the golden dream of humanity, about basically, where I believe humanity is heading. That, right now we are in the three-dimensional state, but I do believe that the Mother Earth has decided that we are going to ascend as everything to a fifth dimension, to a five-dimensional dynamic. And, at that time, most people were like, what? I had 4 people sitting in there or something like that in that lecture. So it was not a big topic, but I think with even the onset of the pandemic, where people had somewhat more time to think about things and also read different things that are going on in the world, this has become much more of a common knowledge.
it's getting there.
Yeah.
Go on.
So
Speak more. I want to hear it.
Well, I mean, in the past, of course, because individually anybody can ascend to a fifth dimension, but in the past, what has happened always was that we had to leave our bodies in order to ascend to a fifth dimension. But I think the difference is that this time we have, unless we mess it up, there's always that possibility. But I believe we have the opportunity this time to ascend with our physical bodies intact. In other words, we don't have to, quote unquote, die in order to make it to, see also the different timelines of everything. In other words, there is, of course, we see our own timeline right now. This is what the only thing we see, but there are many different timelines of our own lives, of the world. There's just a lot more out there, and I cannot say from personal experience because I don't remember all of that and I don't have access to all of that. I have occasional insights, let's put it this way, and I very much cherish them. And I believe that when we are all have ascended to a fifth dimension, that we will not play out the competition and comparison survival of the fittest in the degree that we have now. But I think that we all recognize each other more from a heart connection and more from, and not only each other, but everything around it. Everything has consciousness, not only plants and animals, but even, the nail in the wall. And of course, most of us will not say good morning to the nail in the wall because it is just a nail in the wall for us, but it has consciousness. And so realizing that that we can tune into all these different levels of consciousness and interact with them, and thus also mold them, change them, harmonize with them, play with them, ultimately. Then another thing I think is water. If we're looking, we ourselves are about 67% water or blood, lymph, or liquid anyways, but water.
Mhm. Mhm.
And water it is very clear from, more recent, somewhat research, but the like messages in water by
Mhm.
what is his name?
Emoto, Dr.
Emo-
Emoto.
right, Dr. Emoto, that water is also a frequency of that, or that can hold different frequencies of emotion. So if if you have a cup and you have liquid in there and you infuse it with the emotion of love, it will hold the emotion of love. And of course, that's the same true for our bodies.
Mhm.
And so if we raise our frequencies within us, then we emit this frequency to everything, and everything raises its vibration. And of course, also, if we expose ourselves to energies that are really not useful to us, then like the competition and comparison, survival of the fittest constantly, then our frequency in our bodies and our cells, etc., will go down, and that will not be suitable for making a positive change in our world, in our life.
Mhm.
Plants in general, as you said earlier, have this vertical connection. So they are generally more harmonized, more, what shall I say, have a little bit higher frequency, but they are to some extent also subject to really low energies if they are around. And of course, if the energy is too bad, then they will shrivel and die themselves.
Mhm. Mhm.
But so raising our vibration and seeing ourselves like a cup of water that we can hold and love, that we can, send love to ourselves, send love to ourselves, is, I think, very important these days, because so much is so many times people are what their energies are in fear. How am I going to make it? How will this turn out? And the fear frequency, or the rage frequency for that matter, or any of those, depression, etc., which is ultimately fear and rage both together, that are pushed down. These frequencies keep us from, well, healing our bodies, from experiencing joy, moving forward, and all of that. So as much
Mhm.
as possible, yeah, I'm just rambling right now. So
No, it's all good. I completely resonate with it. In my own experience, I often don't do well around a lot of other people, most other people, because I find I absorb their energy so easily, and I don't like it. I don't like to take on other people's energy, so I'm very sensitive to that, and that goes back to the plants, the plants that we eat. If we're eating plants, we become more sensitive, and we become more vulnerable to various people's energy. So I'm very careful about that. Who I allow to get close to me, who I allow to spend time with me. Um, and at the same time, I'm just commenting on things that you've said. Um, we all have the positive and negative emotions, fear-based emotions or love-based emotions. Uh, not fully conscious or on the fear side, and fully conscious on the love side. And it's not that one is good and one is bad, but it's the choice of how we utilize those, which side we choose to empower. So I'm doing this these interviews out of wanting to help people, out of love, out of wanting to serve humanity. And I do a lot of things based on that. But I could also, when I get angry, I could decide to, you know, get my revenge on the person who made me angry. And so I have that choice, right? So we can choose which side we want to lean on. So
absolutely, it's what, like in the Indian story, you have, like they say, well, there's the wolf that is full of rage, and then the wolf that is full of love. Which one are you going to feed? You know,
Yeah.
makes a difference.
And I know, like, I'm 44, so I'm becoming. I know they say like 18 you're an adult, but I think becoming an adult is takes many decades actually. So I'm becoming like a mature person, and I realize like over time, the more I lean on the positive, the better my life becomes. Actually, physically, like materially, in every way, I become happier. My life becomes better. So it's a much better choice to lean on that side of things.
And
But
I have to say that the older I become, the more I realize how little I know. And when I was young, I thought, well, I know it all. Oh, I'm so good, and I'm so this, and I realized, oh, I'm
it's good.
so foolish.
It's enlightening. It's enlightening.
Mm.
What else do you have for us? What else is worth talking about?
Mm. Let me think. Well, then the other thing that I'm interested in, as I have told you perhaps in the beginning, is that I work with my son to some degree, not too much, but some, in cutting stones. My son is a jeweler. He makes jewelry really
Hmm.
from, scratch. He just has a gift in that direction. And I have always loved gemstones. There's no question about that. And so we're working with like untreated, unheated sapphires, with amethyst, with all kinds of topaz, spinel, all kinds of high quality gemstones. And my son has a cutting machine, and sometimes when he doesn't have time, I have helped him with cutting stones for specific projects. But I love particularly, I have a love for gemstones, and that is
Cool.
because, in my opinion, gemstones have also very specific frequencies, and of
Yeah.
course, more than that, we can also imbue them with frequencies to help us attain certain goals that we have, certain help to keep certain frequencies, because they are literally like a frequency holder. I mean, like when we, of course, like let's say I have the wish of, I don't know, pursuing something, but my thoughts are, you know, I can be doing something in a certain direction. Let's say I'm planning another conference, and but there may be an hour, maybe two, where my energy is really focused in that direction during the day. But there are always all kinds of other things that are coming along, or that we have to deal with. We cannot always be focusing in a certain direction, or even whether it is raising our frequency and having like unconditional love be what's disseminated into our space that we're staying in. Our frequency, even though we may wish to be there all the time, our frequency changes constantly, because we're here one moment, we're there the next moment. It's going all over the place.
Hmm.
Whereas if you, for example, I have a beautiful rose quartz piece here that I
Yeah.
love very much. So if I hold it and I, in the frequency again, I mean, I have to be in a frequency of appreciation to the stone, because then it is more likely willing to hear my request.
Right.
But if I am in that frequency, I can ask that stone to help, set the intent of making the next conference, whatever, a really wonderful conference, for people having a wonderful experience, for myself having a good experience, etc. Whatever it is that I have the intent. But then, because stones' minds don't go all over the place like ours, they will send out that frequency without alternation, but that will be a, you know, a continuous frequency, or like, as I said, having the energy of unconditional love going through your living room constantly, so that when you come in, you will automatically feel more supported, more relaxed, more, you know, not stressed and tense. You know, something like that can be very useful. Aside from that, these can also somewhat counterbalance, like rose quartz, any kind of quartz for that matter, but also black quartz and lepidolite and amazonite and many other stones. They can somewhat mitigate the negative frequencies from your computer, from your Wi-Fi, etc. So in that sense, it can be very useful. And of course, the higher, the harder the stone is. In other words, the hardest stone, of course, that we have is diamond. But the more strong the frequency is. So harder stones like ruby or a sapphire, which unfortunately are also more expensive, but they do have a very strong stabilizing energy, and usually we don't find them, of course, in these large chunks. So, but for stones to also have more effectiveness, it is good to buy stones that are more translucent. Although, of course, there are stones that are not translucent, like jasper or jade. Jade has its own, you know, like this one is a jade necklace, has its own very strong frequency, very harmonizing for the body. But in terms of stones that the highest quality would be translucent, then really the more translucent the stone is, the more effective the stone is. So I love stones.
That's neat. Just a side note, my grandfather was a diamond setter in Jewelers Row in Philadelphia, so I have that connection there. And like you said before, everything has a consciousness, so stones do have their own consciousness, right? And so you're connecting with their consciousness like that. Very fascinating. And also, because you mentioned Atlantis, one of the things that I've heard, and I don't know if this is fact, it's just what I heard, their technology did involve crystals. That's how they were able to do a lot of things.
Yes, it absolutely did involve crystals. And I actually remember one lifetime over there where I, tried to manipulate crystals to the point where it backfired on me. I exploded the whole thing and killed myself, but unfortunately I killed some other people as well with a big explosion. So yeah, I mean, we have to be conscientious and not foolish or arrogant about things that we may not be able to really see what is going on.
Yeah, that's also so fascinating. And what my understanding of that, just really quickly, is that the Atlantean era was very high technologically, but they did not pass through to the next phase, which is why they got destroyed. But I hear a lot of people saying similar things to what you've said, in different ways, in their own ways, that we will pass through this time, that we are on the verge of moving into this next age, which we've never done before, not on this planet. So we've attempted it. We've come close. We've had several ages where we've tried to evolve. We've tried to transcend into a more spiritual age, a more evolved age, fifth dimension, and we haven't been. But this time we're going to. So I believe that. I have hope. I have faith. I think we're going to do it. And people like you, Bettina, and me, and other macrobiotic teachers, we're like torch holders, right? We're carrying the torch forward into the next stage. We're leading the way. That's why not everyone gets our point of view, but the more we speak about it, the more people will start thinking about it and start moving in that direction, right? So that's that's what we can do. That's how we can help. I I think.
Absolutely. That is what we can do. That is how we can help because I mean, not to force it on anybody else, but to just be who we are, and if we are who we are, then those people that resonate with us will join us, and this is how more people are coming together. And yes, the macrobiotic diet has a very stabilizing effect on us to make us hopefully pass through this somewhat difficult time, and maybe more difficulties to come, but make us hopefully pass more elegantly and easily through this time without too much trauma and drama. And that is our hope.
Do you have any do you have any final things you want to talk about? Do you have any final words of inspiration? I say final. It doesn't have to be final because we're still under an hour. But I mean, I don't. You know,
As I told you in the beginning, I'm not a great talker, and so I
you're a
don't
good
know that
talker.
I have much more to say right now. I mean, I can say that I have some cooking classes planned for September and going forward on Zoom if anybody is interested. But otherwise, I would say let's let's make this planet the most beautiful what's the most beautiful image that you can hold in your heart, that you can hold in your mind, and going towards that. And also listening to your heart more when there are choices to be made. Listen to what your heart has to say. I mean, so many times we listen to only what our mind has to say, or sometimes we go only with the emotional, but it's some of both. But really, the heart, like in Chinese medicine and macrobiotics, the heart is the emperor. And so making the choices that are the resonating with the heart will guide us on a path that creates much more joy in our lives and for our planet as a whole. And as we are all a part of our planet, the more people can experience joy and fun in their lives, the more it will be part of our whole world, of the network of our whole world. And yeah, so I would say the one thing, aside from eating well, that is really, really important at this time, please take a moment in every day to do something that you enjoy, no matter what it is, whether it is running around in circles or something else. It doesn't matter, but it needs to be something that brings you pleasure. When it brings you pleasure, you will get the right energy into your body, and that will make a change also in terms of nutrient absorption when you're eating food, but for everything in your life, it will, and for everybody around you, it will be helpful. So being a little bit selfish and doing what you love, at least for 10 minutes, but preferably for an hour a day, would be really wonderful.
Yeah, that sounds great. And I just I just want to add to that. One of my heroes in general is a YouTuber who died, not macrobiotic, but great spirit, great soul, Claire Wineland. She did a talk. I don't know how many people know her, but she did a talk. She said it was titled "Don't Wait to Be Healed to Start Serving Humanity," and it's along these lines that a lot of people withhold their voice, withhold their actions because they think that they're not well enough. Don't wait. Don't wait to be fully healed. If you can help, if you can share, if you can speak up, if you can do things, if you can follow your heart, do it. You know, you don't have to be perfectly healed. So that's my final thing. And you can check out my website, themacrobioticdiet.com, for my blog post or to book an appointment with me. Bettina, do you have a website that you want to talk about? Or yeah,
I have a website. It's culinarymedicineschool.com. That is my website. And, there's a lot of, if you look under events, that's where you see the newest things going on. But culinarymedicineschool.com.
Any final things you want to mention?
I think we're good.
Okay. This has been awesome, Bettina. I love your outlook on things, your spiritual take. I really enjoyed this. Thank you so much for agreeing to be here with me. So,
I did too. Thank you, Joe.
thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.